Been through hell and back, I'm here. I'm stronger than I know I'm gonna be fine. I'm here.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Golden's Guide to Divorce. I'm really happy to bring you this episode. We're here in Bronx Studios, and I have a really special guest today. She's coming in from California, so on the screen, of course. And this is someone I've been friends with for a long time, and I just so value that we've been able to keep our friendship, even though I don't know that we've actually seen each other in many, many years. I met her when I went to California in a workshop, and we just immediately connected. So I can't wait for you to meet her. Her name is Karen Croley. And we're going to be talking about her book today. I mean, she is an author. She's a great teacher. She's a life coach. She's a psychology instructor for the University of Phoenix. She's been doing this for over 15 years, and she really is an amazing coach and teacher. She currently coaches and facilitates women's support groups. And she uses the principles in this book, which, by the way, I love, love, love. It's going to be hard for us to get to everything in this book today, so I've already asked her if she'd come back. So with that, her latest book is called A New Leaf, 12 Spiritual Truths for Starting Over, and it's perfect for the women that are going through divorce and what we want to talk about today, or really any other challenges. So with that, welcome, Karen.
Hey, thank you so much.
I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, I was just thinking, do you remember how long it's been since we saw each other?
I mean, probably 15 years.
Has it been that long? Wow. Yeah. That was such a great workshop. And just for y'all to know, we went to a workshop with Dee Wallace, who played in what was the big movie she was in, Karen?
E.T.
E.T. Yeah, she played the mom in E.T., which we all love that movie. But anyway, she was doing a workshop at the time, and I just, kind of on a whim decided to go out. It was in a little town. Was it Bakersfield or?
It was in LA. It was in LA.
It was in LA?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I thought it was in a really small town. Anyway, that's how we met. So, and we've maintained this friendship all this time, and I've watched Karen do so many great things, including writing this book, which we're going to talk about today. So let's just jump right in. We're not going to get to all the 12 concepts in the book, but we're going to talk about 3 that I really got a lot out of and I really enjoyed that I want to share with the audience. So the first one, we're going to talk about managing emotions. We're going to talk about how your perspective is powerful, which that's so true. And then, of course, forgiveness. So let's start out with managing emotions because, we talk about that so much on this show, Karen. And yeah, I mean, is it important or what? I mean,
yeah.
Certainly no one really teaches you how to handle or manage your emotions. So it's kind of a hit and miss until you start learning how to do the work, of course. I know that you say in one of the chapters around emotions, you talk about emotions are energy in motion, so you treat them as such. So just starting out with that, say more about that.
Okay, yeah. So emotions are meant to really flow through us, come and go. And so if we perceive our emotions as just energy, it takes away all of that angst. Like whenever we're going through our day and we start to feel something, most of us are like, I don't want to feel this right now. This is really interrupting something, or, it's an inconvenience.
Right.
And we just keep plugging away. But if we perceive our emotions as something different as, say, energy that's meant to flow through us, we could just use our breath and use our breath to help it move through, up, forward, and out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a better way to look at it. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that because when you think about babies, I mean, they don't hold on to any emotions. They let whatever's coming just, go right through them. And for us, we seem to get, especially negative emotions, get stuck. Do you have a theory on maybe why that is? I mean, why don't we it's not like we get stuck in great emotions. Those seem to flow through pretty well, but wonder why we get stuck in the negative ones.
Well, you know what? I think I'm going to quote. Do you remember Jill Bolt Taylor? She
Yeah.
was that famous TED Talk. She wrote "A Stroke of Insight," and
Yes.
she's a neuroscientist, and she actually says that we only have that physical reaction. So maybe it's the physical reaction that scares people, but she says it only lasts for 90 seconds.
Really?
So for me, yeah, that's a huge relief, right? To think, okay. And then she says, after 90 seconds, it's really our choice or our mindfulness to keep it going in our loop. And then we just end up affirming over and over again, I'm stressed, I'm angry, I'm sad, which creates the loop to keep going and going and going. But
Mm-hmm.
if we stay down in our body, out of our heads, and just keep breathing it through, it doesn't have to be a big deal. I like to use my breath, and it just moves up and out. And
Yeah.
then there's there's another level of how to deal with emotions, and that's really using them as a way to get to know what you're needing. And so if you just stop and be still and listen to what's really going on inside and just ask, what am I needing? What is this about? Just a
Mm-hmm.
soft inquiry like you would talk to your best friend.
Right.
And then you can get some information, and your emotions end up being like a little either a red flag or a guide or a teacher.
I like that so much, Karen, because rather than us being so afraid when we feel sad or angry or depressed or whatever, if we could, yeah, see it as our consciousness, our awareness saying, okay, something's off here,
Mhm.
you know, let's pay attention, which, that's what you and I teach all the time. How can we be aware? How can we be present? How can we pay attention? So, yeah, I love exactly what you're saying. If we could look at it more as hating the emotion when it comes. And also when you said that about the 90 seconds, that's really powerful. I really want to kind of repeat that for our audience, because so basically what you're saying is, a thought will run for 90 seconds, and then after that, we're the one who are just replaying and replaying and replaying until we might actually feel tired if we're saying, oh God, I'm so tired. So it loops more in the brain, right?
Yeah, just a small correction. It's not the thoughts that last for 90 seconds, it's the physical reaction.
I see,
So
I
if
see.
we're feeling a feeling and the anger, registers in our body and we feel that, it actually only lasts for 90 seconds. And then after that's gone, then it's really up to us to move on. Or like most of us, we keep that loop running in our head. I'm angry, or I'm in a bad mood. And then we just reaffirm that to ourselves over and over again until something interrupts it, or who knows, something
Yeah, and
changes.
it's really sad to think that we're only going to have that reaction in our body for 90 seconds, but yet sometimes something will happen and we'll be depressed for days or weeks or whoever knows how long, right? So what would you say would be a good interrupter? I know one is just being aware, of course. Is there anything else that you can think of that people could use to interrupt after that 90 seconds?
That's a great question, Deb. I just use my conscious awareness, and I use my breath. I use my own self inquiry, because
Mm-hmm.
once I start redirecting, like taking charge of the emotion, then
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't control me. I'm guiding it. So it's
Right.
not like I'm powerless with the emotion anymore. It's like this thing that I'm working with, rather
Mm-hmm.
than this thing that's and I don't know what to do with it, and oh my god, it's going to take me down.
Right, right. So, would you say that you notice and say, like, okay, well, I notice I'm feeling sad, or I notice sadness, or is that the way you would process it and then breathe
Yeah.
through it?
So I let's say I'm sitting in traffic, and it's super annoying because I'm supposed to be at this appointment that where I want to make a really good impression, and there's traffic and I'm going to be late. And I start getting, full of angst, anger is rising up, and annoyance. First, I would just notice that there's this switch or change in my body. And then I would just label it and go, okay, I'm definitely feeling angst, angry, whatever. And breathe through it and go, just move it up and out, and just work with that with my breath. And then I look at it while I'm sitting there and going, okay, what is this really about? Is it that important, that I get there on time? Are there no allowances for mistakes? Where's that coming from?
Mhm.
And then I might get to the answer of, why do I want to make such a good impression? And
Mhm.
where, so it's like you go from thought to thought, and your inquiry gets deeper and deeper until you get to the root of it, and you go, oh, well, that's helpful to know because I'm really doing my best. And then there's this letting go process of, okay, well, I definitely don't need to feel angry anymore because now I've got this new information about myself.
Mhm.
I can feel good about the fact that I'm doing my best, and
Right.
this is totally out of my control,
Yeah.
and everything else is secondary.
I think you answered that really well about and the word inquiry. So, because I don't think most people think about when they're in a heavy emotion to try to put a stick in the spokes, so to speak, slow down enough to inquire about, yeah, okay, where is this coming from? Because I think a lot of people, get triggered during the day and um, don't pay any attention, and maybe they go home and they're still upset and maybe don't even know why you know so
Yeah, I like to allow that space and time to just sit in
mhm.
stillness for a while, and then you can bring that emotion back. Even you don't have to be in the moment of experience the emotion in order to work through it and get that information about what you're needing at that time. Like
Right.
whether it was, with divorce things are going to come up, like your ex-husband might be in the room, or in somewhere in close proximity. You might feel triggered with that, and of course you can't sit there or stand there and do a self inquiry at that time, but you can go later and provide that time for yourself,
Right.
and go a little bit deeper with it so that the next time it happens you can be more prepared and not as triggered.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's really great advice because I mean, all of us, not just people that are going through a divorce on a daily basis, we're triggered all day long generally by something. So, being able to have the tools and to recognize it really helps. Another thing I wanted to go into was talking about, like, I love this. I even love the word perspective. I just
I
love
do
that.
too.
I just love that word. And in your book, you talk about how powerful perspective is. So, talk to us a little bit more about that. I know that part of what you say is you know, if you shift your perspective, then you can find the gifts in the experience. And I know, like for me, and probably a lot of other people, sometimes you think, well, if I'm in the middle of a divorce and my life is turned upside down and everything feels terrible, how am I going to find a gift, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I still remember like it was yesterday sitting with my then counselor sobbing as she would demand, "What is the gift here?" And I'd be like, "There's no gift." And just sobbing, and it was so hard to find that gift. Um, but here's something to consider. Here's a great quote, real quick here. Rumi says, "The wound is the place where the light enters you."
Mm,
And I really believe that, because that's where perspective can come in and give you these new insights and then empower you to keep going and transform all of that hurt and anger and betrayal or whatever it is that happened with the divorce. And so to find the gift, it's really just a flipping. It sort of goes back, well, it is the same thing as the yin and the yang, right? There's always something good that comes out of a crisis.
right.
It's really a way to move also from feeling like a victim and being stuck in the situation to then come out of it feeling strong and a new sense of strength. So, for instance, there's an exercise. Would you like to do it with me?
Sure.
Okay. So, think or consider any situation that you've had that felt hurtful to you, and you're just really stuck with it, and it's making you feel like you're stuck.
Well, I would say, definitely around the divorce, it wasn't something I wanted, and so I felt stuck in a way that, I didn't have a choice. It wasn't my choice, and um, yeah, and I guess that, I
Okay.
didn't. Do you want me to stop there, or do you want me to go any further?
You can stop there, because we'll work with what you said. I
Okay.
didn't have a choice, right? So that would be the main gist of it, is that I did not have a choice when this divorce happened, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. So if you were to flip it, what did you get out of that? What was the experience you had to go through around that, and then how did it transform you to be who you are right now?
Well, when I think about it that way, I mean, there's actually been a lot of gifts that have come from that, and I realize now, my saying, that I didn't have a choice. Um, I think in that moment I thought I didn't, but in reality, I found out I have a choice as to how I can react to it. You know.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And not that I got there overnight, but there's been a lot of, like you said, the yin and the yang. I mean, there's been a lot of good things that have come out of this really unwanted event, you know.
Mm. Yes. And so that's the perspective that you would want to carry through from now on each and every day. So if you focus on that as opposed to the other stuff that ends up making you feel like this victim of something that you didn't want,
Hmm.
do you see how that can lift your spirit and open you up more to possibilities, new things coming in? Do you
Yeah.
see how that perspective makes a big shift for you? Maybe you even feel it inside your body.
Yeah, it made me think about because like a month after I separated, I had a heart attack. And, obviously, that was just another, I really felt like a victim at that point, you know. And I just remember thinking, and we might try it out with this too, like, why is this happening to me? Just, I
Hmm.
just felt like yeah, I mean, what did I do to deserve this? Not just one, but two big whammies, you know.
Yeah, and why is something I used to do all the time, and why is the first thing you want to get rid of because it just keeps you going around on this wheel inside your head over and over again because you never will figure out why. I think your brain tricks you to think, oh, once I figure out why, then I'll feel better, then I can go on, then I'll understand. But in reality, it just keeps you more stuck. So I would say, and this is included in my letting go chapter, is just to forget about why.
Yeah. No, you're so right about that. I mean, I know that. I mean, I've read it 1,000 times, and I do know that asking why doesn't make you feel any better at all. I mean, finding out a reason, and really in those two situations, I might never know exactly. Um, but even with the heart thing, which now I call my heart awakening, Karen, there's been
Oh,
amazing things that have come out of even something like that, and I certainly, felt powerless and, just like so many people who have illnesses, excuse me, and I've talked about not trusting my body and being scared. And um, so that's been a big thing to move through, and
oh gosh, I can only imagine. But I bet in this process you're tuning in more to your body more than you ever have before. I bet you're developing a closer relationship with your body, with your heart.
oh gosh, that almost makes me want to cry when you say that, because that is so
Yeah.
true. And even the audience knows that because I've been really transparent about this journey and about everything that's happened. And you're absolutely right. The relationship I have, not just with my body, but like me, like the deepest parts of me, um, yes, having that happen shifted my perspective on so many levels, probably even more than I still don't even realize yet, you know?
Exactly. That's going to unfold from now on.
Mhm.
You might
Mhm.
years from now go, wow, oh, here's another new piece, something that I learned from that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and then you say something else about talking about the perspective, which I love this too. You talk about rewriting your story. Um, Talk to me about that.
Okay, so this is really an empowerment exercise um, to get us. Well, first of all, consider okay, so let's say you meet someone and you just hit it off right away, and there's this super great connection, and you want to tell them, who you are and what you like. Let's say you just went through your divorce and you want them to know what happened because you're connecting with them so much. So it's like an opportunity to tell them your story, but in a victor stance where you're coming across like, this is what I've learned. This is the stronger me that has come out of this. And then you get to use that story that you rewrite for yourself to reaffirm that belief about yourself, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
live that story every day.
Right.
So the exercise itself is, it can take some time to rework all of those thoughts and things that you want to share. This happened to me, and then there's this detail that you don't want to leave out because that really hurt. But if you keep working on it, let's say the first draft is pages, and it's just like this big vent, and then work on it again, and then it gets a little more succinct, even if it's down from 4 pages to 2 pages. That's progress. And then work on it again until you're getting down to these power statements within one paragraph. And it just feels so good just to have
Yeah.
your whole big hurt wrapped up like that in one strong paragraph. So that when you meet someone new and you think, oh, we're going to be great friends, and you can share this about them, and then you come across as this person that learned something that's stronger for having gone through it, and it might have even enriched your life because of everything you had to go through at that time.
Well, and I can honestly say that at this point. I mean, it's not like I still don't have, really bad days, but the scales are shifting so that I do sense, that there has been a lot of good out of this real big upheaval in my life. And I think when big things like that happen, you're definitely being redirected, for two things in less than a month. The universe is saying, "Well, you need to go a different direction here. Something needs to change." But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and when you talk about like rewriting your story so that you feel empowered, I think even now some of the statements in my head are, I remind myself maybe on days that I feel weak or not very powerful, I remind myself everything I've come through in the last 9 months, and that makes me feel empowered to keep going and keep risking and like show up on the show and be really
Yes.
vulnerable and I don't know, this is something that this all came about because of the situation. I'd never even had the opportunity to be sharing my story and speaking to people and women and encouraging, if I hadn't gone through that really crappy event.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say the same thing for sure about me. I had a horrible divorce, and but I think of my husband, I call my husband, as my greatest.
I haven't heard that, husband.
I think of him as my greatest teacher now. And
Wow.
like I needed that big kick in the rear end to get me back to who I'm meant to be. I could not be the person I am now had I still been in that relationship, for sure, 150%.
Wow. That's really
So
powerful.
yeah, it's he's taught me so much. I used to be, another example is I used to be very dependent
Mhm,
person, and now I'm like this super independent.
mhm.
Um, Now I feel like I'm actually smart and intelligent. Somebody actually said that about me for the first time, pretty soon after I was divorced, and I thought, wow, nobody's ever said that about me. So all these new things come in about who you are as a person, and you get more and more solid as you go through this process because simply that you're not in that relationship anymore.
Right. Well, in an earlier conversation that you and I had, I mean, it felt really good. I mean, you said something to me about how inspiring you thought I was, and that just I don't hear that often, and it was wonderful to hear it and to think, "Wow," I don't think I was that, before. So, interesting.
Yes, that's another great example. So now you get to be inspiring. Whereas
Yeah,
before you were maybe inspiring, but in very different ways.
yeah. Well, I love this whole perspective chapter, so everyone, you definitely are gonna wanna, check it out. Although, I mean, there are 12 spiritual truths in here for starting over, but we're just barely tapping the surface. The next one, is, is forgiveness. And, I really like to talk to every guest, Karen, about forgiveness because it's something we all work on. It's something we're all wanting to give ourselves and maybe the other person. Um, and I think it's still one of the most difficult challenges when you have been hurt and or humiliated or wounded or whatever. So you talk about in that chapter, forgiveness is returning your heart back to love and joy. And, that's another one of those questions that I would say, when you're in the middle, when you're in the thick of it and you don't feel love or joy and you're nowhere near forgiveness. I mean, how do you get to that place?
Okay, well, I actually have 4 steps. But first, I'd say that for me, forgiveness is actually taking personal responsibility for what happened. Okay, so because I want to feel good again, I want to release that yucky stuff that's in my heart, right? I want to get rid of that so I can feel good again. So, forgiveness for me is liberating because it's me taking that power within my ability to shift it and come to that place where I can forgive that person. So it's really all about me. And so there's 4 steps, and the first one is be willing.
Oh, be willing. Oh my gosh, I love that.
The
Because
second one,
some of us are not willing at all. So,
be willing is a process in and of itself, right? But it could just be an intention.
yeah, yeah,
The second one is use and practice what you've learned so far. And that's all, use that letting go, use that new perspective. Number 3 is take the leap of faith.
mm.
And number 4 is have courage.
Oh, yeah. It does take courage to forgive. It does. Yeah,
I know, I don't think people normally look at it that way, but for me, my default is, gosh, well, if I forgive this person, then they might do it to me again. They might hurt me again. And so
yeah,
there's this vulnerability that happens.
right,
And to be vulnerable like that is scary, right? It's like there's this unknown.
right.
But really that grudge or that resentment, that I was using as like a guard or a safety net or whatever you want, a shield really. And it wasn't serving me. It
Mm-hmm,
doesn't feel good to carry around that baggage, a
mm-hmm.
grudge and a resentment. That feels terrible. So yeah, having courage to get vulnerable and get vulnerable and take that leap of faith. The other thing is, like I said, take the leap of faith. It's all about, for me, it's like, okay, well, I believe that what goes around comes around. And that helps me with my, I got to get to the justice of this, right? Like they have to, you know, experience a consequence, right?
Right.
And there's
Mm-hmm.
that justice part. But if you go back to your belief of, say karma or even the serenity prayer for some of you, it's like that letting go of, okay, well, what goes around comes around, and it's really not my job to make sure that they get punished or a consequence, right? It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to take responsibility further for the justice that's supposed to happen. That's not my job. My job is to stay within
Yeah.
what I have control over and
Yeah.
what
You
I
know,
can do.
there's that old saying, I don't know if I can get it right or not. It's like not forgiving is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Have you ever heard that?
Oh gosh, that's heavy.
um, because it is poison if we keep the non-forgiveness inside, I mean, I'm not even quite sure. I've never actually said this, on camera before. I'm not quite sure that all the anger, bitterness, resentment, didn't cause my heart episode, you know. And
Well, that's really that. Talk about courage. That's a brave statement to make, Deb. I mean, right? I mean, it makes sense that you're constricting, right, with those emotions. You're clenched.
yes,
You're
and I was angry and bitter and felt like a victim, and like I told you, I don't want this, just so much pushing back, and I do think, especially long-term issues with forgiveness do create issues in the body. I truly believe that. Um,
yeah, I do
so,
too.
so that's another reason for us all to, work towards it. And of course, I always say, and I think I mentioned it to you before, forgiveness and a lot of these processes, it's not, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a happening, it's a process. And sometimes it takes as long as it takes, which is longer than we want,
Yeah, I remember writing the chapter on this book, and I actually felt pressure to have it all wrapped up in a nice little package. Then I'll be done forgiving, right? And then I can go on to writing the next chapter.
Oh, how did that go?
But not, it's not true at all. And so it's like accepting, right? That forgiveness is like an onion. There's going to be layers, and it's going to keep unraveling, and there's going to be new things that come up that feel raw, rip the Band-Aid off, and then you're like, there's a raw wound again. And then you have to, or you can choose to go back in again and forgive again, right?
Well, I remember reading that in here about, I don't think I've thought of it that way about the layers like an onion and forgiveness. And I do think that's really true. As I've been, working on forgiveness around my parents for ever and ever and ever, there's always seems to be another layer. But going back to that one thing you said in the beginning, like you said, you were afraid that if you forgave someone that they would do it again. And I think, like me and probably a lot of other people, I think sometimes I was afraid to forgive because it would just like disappear and like it would be as if it never happened. And I don't even know what I'm saying exactly there. Maybe you understand more of what I'm saying, but I don't know if it was like I wouldn't be right or I wouldn't be validated if it was just gone, that it was something that happened, and which sounds to me like when I say it out loud that it just still needs more forgiveness, because it's still not wanting to let go, isn't it?
Well, I think we get comfortable, or almost like, it's like it becomes this blankie, like this thing that makes us feel safer,
Mm-hmm.
and I also think that there's conditioning going on too in our society. It's like we have this thing, we must remember the Holocaust, we must remember 9/11, and it's kind of pounded into us that if we forget these things happen, then it could happen again. And while, of course, some of that's true, I just tend to believe more in our capability of when we're fully conscious and mindful in the present moment, then we have everything we need to deal with a possible perpetrator or a possible somebody that might hurt us. It's like, we have all of that within us to begin with. So I don't feel it's necessary to pound in that memory, and we must not forget.
Yeah.
That's me though. That's probably pretty different from what most people think.
Well, maybe not. I mean, I certainly understand what you're saying. I think it's really powerful what you're saying, and um, we've seen miraculous things happen on TV and in print when people forgive someone else for something that society and culture would look at as horrible. But
Hmm.
but there's such healing in for both parties that both people can go on and live, which is really what we want. Of course, we all just want to live and be happy. Or get through as best we can, maybe. Wow, my time has gone by so fast. You're going to have to come back. Please tell me you'll come back.
Oh, of course. I'd love to. This was fun.
There's a lot more in here, but I did want to ask you before we finish. Just you've got so much wisdom in this book, and final thought. Do you have any final thoughts about, women who are going through divorce and, this is called a new leaf and, what would you want to say to the audience?
Well, I think like the missing piece and the launching point for all of this is gratitude, really, finding appreciation for what you've gone through. That's going to propel you forward. It really is. And so if you can be good where you've been, then you can be good where you're going to.
That's a great quote. I love that.
It's actually a Sufi song we sing in our dances for Universal Peace.
Yeah, I love that. I love
It's a
that.
good song.
Well, and gratitude again, it's a different kind of energy. I've always said you can't be in gratitude and in the crapper at the same time, So gratitude's pretty powerful. So, well, listen,
And it's
that
like the result of all the work we put in too. So it's like the icing on the cake, all that work we put into baking the cake, then we get the icing, and that's the gratitude, that's the joy.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Karen. I
Thank
just
you.
seeing your face makes me want to fly out and see you. And lucky you, you're getting ready to go to Hawaii. I'm so excited
I
for
know.
you.
Me too.
Well, I want to tell everyone it's called A New Leaf by Karen Croley and 12 Spiritual Truths for Starting Over. One of the things I really love about this book, too, is that you have exercises at the end of every chapter, which is, I love that because sometimes you want to immediately take what you've read and kind of cement it in, and really let it sink in. So I love that you've got these great exercises in here. And you can see I'm already well worn on your book here.
Oh,
So
I love it.
so everyone, you can reach Karen at she is Trail Coach on Insta. And
Trail
what
Coach 28.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Sorry. It's Trail Coach 28 on Instagram.
Trail Coach 28. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
The book is on Amazon, of course, and then your website again.
It's www.anewleaf4you.com.
Awesome.
I'm also on Facebook. A
Great.
New Leaf for the letter U. You can find my page on Facebook too.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad
Thank
you're
you.
everywhere. We need you everywhere, Karen.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here to get the information out.
Yes, it is. Well, everyone look her up. She is an amazing coach, an amazing teacher, and she's written an incredible book. Thank you, my friend. Please come back.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Hawkins, and this is Golden's Guide to Divorce. And normally at this time, we would have the golden tool. Instead, today, I have a golden nugget for you. And that is, there are lots of new and big and fun and great changes coming to this desk. I can't tell you everything right now, but I can tell you it's going to be super, super fun. And, I'm expanding, you followed my journey. You've been right here along with me. I've been very transparent about every step of the way, and very vulnerable. But at this point, I'm 9 months in and, my life is turning around and, I'm happy now and there are other things that I want to do. And it's not that I'm not going to talk about divorce anymore because that's still a very important topic. But, there's going to be some other things at the table that I can't wait for you to see and hear. And it's going to be a big adventure for me. So what I want to make sure that you do is make sure that you're following us. Make sure that you're on all our channels. You can follow Golden's Guide to Divorce on Insta, or you can follow Golden's Guide to Divorce on Facebook. And then you can also sign up and make sure that you receive all the news or any giveaways at goldensguidetodivorce.com. So, as always, I'm open to any comments you have. I'd love to know what tools you're using. But please go give us a follow so you can keep up with all the new things that are coming. Okay, so final thoughts for today. I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about needing people and sometimes how the pendulum swings. And, for some of us, it's like sometimes we need people to the point we just like we just talked about with Karen. Sometimes it feels like victimhood, that we need people too much sometimes. And then other times we swing to the other end of the spectrum where we are so independent and we're like, and I've kind of gone through this whole process. I don't need anybody. I can do everything by myself. And then at some point, I think we kind of swing back into balance in the middle. And what I've realized and what I want to leave you with today is that we all need each other. Not in the extreme ways, but, we all need each other. And there's been some things that have happened in the last couple weeks where it wasn't that I was in a victim mode of needing something from anyone, but I realized when they did show up, I did need them in my life. And it felt wonderful for me to receive and for them to give, and vice versa, So I think that's something to think about, because some of us are on the opposite ends of the spectrum of I don't need anybody or I'm desperate, So maybe we can all kind of look at coming into balance in the middle of we all do need each other. You might have heard that saying, we're all just walking each other home. I love that. We're all just walking each other home. And we'll end up with that. And we're still here. So join us next time.
I am here.